Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making an impact in our community and around the globe. And today we're thrilled to chat with Courtney Johnson, the inspiring founder of Culinary Care and a beacon of hope for countless families battling cancer. At just 23, Courtney transformed her personal pain into purpose, leading a movement that bridges the gap between nourishment and care for those in need. From delivering a staggering 30,000 plus meals to spending countless hours on the phone offering support, Courtney and her team have touched lives in ways that words alone cannot express. Her accolades like the Crane Chicago recognition and being a Tyson Foods Meals That Matter hero are just testaments to her relentless dedication. And today we will delve deep into Courtney's journey, the origins of Culinary Care, and the future she envisions for her organization. So let's dive right in. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me and that intro. I need you everywhere with me.
Of course. Well, you're doing such amazing work. And I did mention that this purpose came from pain. Can you share with us the initial spark that led you to establish Culinary Care?
Yeah, so it goes back, I guess, quite a few years now. 2006, I was a junior in high school at the time, and my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And at the time, he was given, anywhere from, I think it was 5 months to potentially 5 years to live. And sadly, it was on the shorter end, and he ended up passing away about 7 months, in and out of treatments and surgeries, and just didn't make it past the 7 month mark. So it was just a whirlwind of a time, and our lives were just turned upside down. And yeah, it was just a lot to go through.
A lot of times during adversity is when you're able, there's a lot of life lessons that come through that, and purpose and honoring your dad's legacy and your family. And so receiving support from the cancer community during your dad's diagnosis, there's got to be a lot of experiences there that help shape the vision of Culinary Care. Talk about some of those and then leading into creating Culinary Care.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was definitely, exactly what you're saying. Throughout those 7 months, I think from the time he was diagnosed until he passed away, we had friends and neighbors that brought meals to us every single day. And food was just one thing that we did not have to worry about. And, for me personally, and even just for my family, everything that we did prior to his diagnosis was centered around food in some way. That was like what we looked forward to as a family. We were fortunate to always be able to sit together and have a family dinner. We loved going out to eat, and just that was something that my dad always looked forward to. It was those moments with him where we'd be eating breakfast and already talking about what we were having for lunch. And those are kind of the memories that I really carry with me, of my dad. It was everything that we did together was centered around a meal. And so when he was diagnosed, I just saw firsthand how quickly, even for a family like ours, where the focus of so much of what we did was around a meal, it was the last thing that we were thinking about. And there was just no time to go to the grocery store, prepare food, let alone even the idea of like looking forward to or getting excited about food. And that's really what our neighbors and friends just kind of helped reinvigorate and instill, was just making sure we had those moments too. And I'm the oldest of three, and so you've got three sort of teenage kids that very could have easily just gone into our rooms, not talk to each other. And having those meals to be able to come together around, I think really just helped us get through that time, and just are the only sort of guiding the light that I have, those light moments that I have with my dad, were those memories instead of just all of the bad. And so that was really just what I kept thinking about. After my dad passed away, life kind of just continues on. And so for me, I'm studying for the ACT while we're planning for his funeral. I'm planning to go to college. You just kind of have to keep going, and none of that is put on pause or waiting for you to get better or heal or grieve. And so you just kind of, for me, it was just, I have to keep moving forward. And then after graduating college, and I'm from Chicago, and so moving back to the Chicago area after college, I was really felt like I was in a place to finally take a step back and say, like, I really want to do something to keep my dad's memory alive and make sure that that doesn't really disappear. And then I'm able to continue to do things to honor him. And so I thought of the meals that friends and neighbors brought to us. I initially thought that there has to be a group out here that's doing this already, and I will volunteer. So I'm going to find a group that is, finding those families that maybe don't have 7 months of meals at their doorstep waiting for them, or people that are coming with them to the hospital and making sure that they, have something to eat while they're there. Because that's the other reality, is you're spending the majority of our time was actually at the hospital. And so that was really kind of what started the idea behind Culinary Care, was just seeing that there was really nowhere I could volunteer, and then thinking through, well, what are families doing if they don't have the support? Because I just can't imagine how different our lives would have looked, and the quality of life that we had through that time, how different that would have looked if we didn't have that community support. And so that was really the impetus behind it, was just trying to fill a void and seeing what void really existed there. And we just found that it's not only needed for some people, but we've learned along the way that about 125,000 cancer deaths every single year are actually a direct consequence of malnutrition. And so it's individuals and families just not eating properly. And some of the root causes that we've learned, and it's such a complex problem and goes far beyond these root causes, but are just loss of appetite and depression and changing taste buds and just financial strain and extreme exhaustion, where food is just the last thing that you're thinking about. And it's so easy to skip a meal. And so those are some of the things that we really found we can start addressing through food. And as our name suggests, I just firmly believe that when you're trying to nourish people, it is not just about the ingredients on a plate, but it's about everything that comes with it, and the love and the care and the thoughtfulness. And so our programs now are sort of encompass both sides of our name. So we have the culinary side, where we work with local restaurants and deliver free meals to cancer patients and their families while they're going in for treatment. And that was just a void that we found out very early on in starting Culinary Care, was that you don't get any meal services from the hospital when you're coming in for these like 4 to 7 to 12 hour long days of chemotherapy. And so, where we're based in Chicago, we are the only program that's going in and making sure that families have access to a free lunch during that time if they need it. And it's for themselves, any caregivers, or any family members that are with them. So everyone can really enjoy that meal. And then on the care side, we have a dedicated team of staff and volunteers that are checking in with our families weekly, monthly, just on an ongoing basis. We have community partners that write cards and do chemo care kits, which are like our goodie bags for the day. So it just really is just incorporating that sense of love and hope. And it's the number one thing that we hear from our families, is just how much it means to them to know that people care. And this is actually our 10th anniversary this year. And so one of the things that I've really been thinking back on was the first person that we ever delivered a meal to, and her name was Lee. And I asked for her feedback, and she wrote a 4-page letter. And at the end of the letter, she ended up saying that our goodness, grace, and kindness restored her faith in humanity, because she was just completely alone and isolated, and no one was stepping in, no one was helping her until we showed up with a meal. And so it just makes a world of difference.
Wow, that's incredible. Just the work that you've been able to accomplish and be able to provide something that, the average person doesn't realize, that when you're going for those outpatient chemo care, those treatments, that they don't have access to meals. And so I even know, just going to the hospital and ending up, staying for various reasons with like our kids, like, you are like, what am I going to do about food? Maybe the kitchen, the cafe that they do have closed. And so you don't even have access to that. You have a vending machine, maybe, that may take card, may not take card. You don't have cash. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
so that those are all, and those are for the people that are pretty much well. And so then when you have a cancer diagnosis, and you have your family that is your caregivers, and they're trying to help, and you don't have access to those meals, to be able to have a organization like Culinary Care to come in and take that burden off your plate and provide you with a nutritious meal that is going to help get you through those next couple hours and days, like that's tremendous. And I mean, the work that you're doing is so important. You talked briefly about the caring minutes on the phone and stuff. Talk about the significance of the 100,000 plus caring minutes on the phone, and what kind of support does Culinary Care offer through these conversations?
Yeah, so that was definitely like a big part of when we were thinking about starting culinary care. A big part of our name, but then also just a big part of, what we want to be delivering and how we want to make sure that our mission and how we're really, with a mission to nourish cancer recoveries, the care is just such a big part of that. And so what we have is our team of staff and volunteers that are really checking in between every single treatment, and whether that's a monthly phone call or just every single week, they have not only just coordinating your meals, so we have phone only support. And so we're doing every single order. Families actually get to choose what they want to eat. And so if you are tech savvy, you can go on and use our portal, which is just online, and you can do 3 clicks and order your meal. Other families, whether it's just that they don't like using internet or just don't want to or don't have the ability to do that regularly, we have our team that's on the phone with them. And those families are often the ones that really need the support the most. I remember very early on when I was doing a lot of our meal deliveries, or a lot of them, 100% of them in the early days. And we would get phone calls of people just wanting to follow up and thank you for dropping off a meal or talk about what they ate. And it dawned on me that it really wasn't about the food. That was just their impetus for calling. And it was really that they just wanted the connection and they wanted someone to talk to. And so, whether that was just sharing that they really loved the lemon juice that was included, or that this was the first time that they've been able to keep their food down in weeks. And it just really wasn't necessarily about the food itself, but about just having someone that they could call that they didn't feel really guilty about. Like, that is really what we're here to do, is just make sure that that you have support from your first day of treatment until your last. You do not have to worry about feeling like you're a burden for us. You don't have to worry about really just any of that guilt that so many of our patients feel with calling on their family or calling on their friends. Some of the families we serve don't even want to tell their community that they have cancer. And so we are their only resource, and we're really the only connection that they can have to say, to have these sort of phone calls with. And I think food just provides this uplifting talking point where it's not necessarily about the cancer itself, but about something fun that you can engage with. And so that's a lot of what our team spends time doing. Is you call to check in to see how their meal was, if they need something, another treatment coming up, and then you're on the phone next thing you know it for an hour, just catching up, talking to someone. And I love when patients tell us that our team has become their best friends. And so I think for our families, it's the number one thing that we hear is that complete strangers, and it stems beyond the phone calls with our team directly, but into donors and volunteers and everyone that kind of collectively supports the community, or this community, is just, it is the one thing we hear from our families, is just knowing that there's strangers out there that care enough to take this action and make sure that they have these friendly phone calls, to make sure that they have a meal. And it is the one thing that I think everyone gets super emotional about with our program, is just knowing that there's people out there who genuinely are putting themselves in their shoes, saying, wow, that's really challenging, and I'm just here to help make your day brighter and better and put a smile on your face.
I love that so much. And many times, your nonprofit name, Culinary Care, like the work that you're doing is so aligned to your name and is just, I mean, it is perfect there. You talked about volunteers and donors. For the listeners who are inspired by Culinary Care's mission, how can they get involved either as a volunteer or donor, either locally in your area or beyond?
Yeah. Locally, we are in Chicago, and so you can get your company involved. We work with a lot of, corporate volunteer groups, and that's just a really amazing way to spread our mission and get more people involved. So we have companies and individuals that will help pack like our chemo care kits. So they're putting together just kind of our goodie bags for the day that have cards in them, snacks that can get our patients through a long day of treatment. And just they get really thoughtful on it. Of just we've had companies that have put together like activity books and coloring pages and just really anything to help take their mind off treatment and just provide some excitement and fun for the day. And then, the most meaningful way right now that anybody can get involved anywhere, and we have, donors from across the country that are part of what we call the line, which is our monthly giving community. The line name actually comes from our restaurant partners who help fuel our mission. And in their kitchens, you will find all of their line cooks who are kind of each doing their own part to make the magic of a meal that you get to dine out and eat and enjoy every day possible. And so that's really what the line comes from. And that is what our line members are doing, is just each doing their part, whether it's a $10 monthly donation or, $200 monthly donation. Everybody is kind of collectively doing what they can to make sure that we can continue to deliver culinary care and nourish as many families as possible. And so I think that's definitely the most meaningful way to get involved, no matter where you are. And we have a newsletter that goes out every month, and just different ways to connect with that community and make sure that you feel like you're part of it.
I love that. As a recognized leader and advocate in this nonprofit entrepreneurial space, what advice would you give to someone looking to turn their personal experiences into impactful initiatives?
In my experience, I would just focus on one person at a time. It is so easy. There's so much need, and it's so easy to get caught up and just never feeling like you're doing enough and just constantly wanting to help more people and help more people. And this problem is just so big, I can't solve it. And it just really takes one person at a time. And for us, 10 years later, we're now serving, 750 families this year, but it started with just one. And it started with just one person, just on my lunch break, dropping off a meal. And that one has now turned into, 700 plus. And so I think it's just truly is just focus on the one person and the one thing that you can do at a time. I personally worked full time for 2 years starting Culinary Care. So it wasn't something that I just started and then immediately took the leap and was doing this full time. And, I think that could be a strategy for if that is something that you're kind of questioning. Doesn't work for everybody, but for me, it was great to just know that, okay, I can build this and I can do it on my own pace and my own time, and I can help where I can. And then it just hit an inflection point where we had raised enough funds and we just knew that this need was just continuing to get greater and greater. And so I think that those are kind of the recommendations that I would give, is just one person at a time. Just get what you need to do from point A to point B. That was kind of how we constantly thought about it, was how do we get a meal to this person? How do we get a meal to the next person? And how do we show them how much we care, and just kind of keep doing it for the next person?
Great advice. And what's on the horizon for Culinary Care? Are there any new projects or expansions in the pipeline that you'd like to sort of share with us or give us a sneak peek at?
Yeah, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. So with a decade behind us, we had set the initiative to expand into 5 cities over the next 5 years. So we have a growing list of those cities. If you are interested in having culinary care in your community, feel free to go to our website and contact us. Let us know, because that's how we have been evaluating our list of where to go next. Is just seeing, what inquiries we've had coming in since day one. We've had people from all over the U.S. that have inquired and asking if we can come to their community. So yeah, let us know if we should be there next. We're currently expanding into the Dallas community. So if you're down here, reach out. We'd love to have your support. We're going to be getting going in Q4 of 2023, but really with an official launch in 2024. So
Great. And what puts a smile on your face when you look at the work that you and your team have been able to do over this past decade, bringing care to so many cancer patients and their families throughout the Chicagoland area and beyond now?
yeah, I think the number one thing is just hearing from our families and just hearing, I mean, every time we deliver a meal, our patients have the opportunity to give us feedback just generally about their food, but then also at including a thank you note to some of our donors. And so every day I get to read those comments, and I just love seeing just all of the heartwarming, just feel good smiles and support that we bring our families, and just knowing that, seeing recently that a woman who was really hesitant, she said, I've had no appetite lately, and I was really hesitant to order a meal and use your program. And you guys dropped off my food today, and 95% of my meal is gone, and my family is shocked. And so just seeing this sort of transformation of what just like a really well made, thoughtfully prepared meal can do, and having someone that's rallying behind it and wants you to eat, which our team is really good at, is always just it shows that we're really making a difference, not tomorrow, but today with every single meal that we deliver. So
Yes, I
that's
love that.
always.
Well said, well said. Where can people go to learn more about Culinary Care and support your efforts?
Yeah, the best place is just culinarycare.org, our main website. If you want to join our monthly giving community, The Line, you can go to culinarycare.org/the line and just jump right in on that front. But those are the two best places to start.
Well, Courtney Johnson, thank you so much for all the work that you are doing with Culinary Care and being a beacon of hope for countless families battling cancer. Thank you for using your story to really bring hope for so many. Thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me and helping us, let people know about the work that we're doing.
Absolutely.